selected, we put those names into the rest of the names from the public schools in the area, and they have a second chance to be selected for our second $1,500 check. So it works out pretty well for descendants, and that could be a son, a daughter. If you have a niece, a nephew, grandchild, whatever, if they're a senior in high school and planning to go to college, this is a way for them to get a little more money for those books, etc. So it's out there now, the scholarship application, and I hope we get a lot of applications in this year. Thank you. I'll just do a little dance here. Yes. I don't know. I really am not a tax expert. I'm sorry. And so for a student, if they're not really working, probably very minimal tax, I would guess. So it doesn't go to the parent, doesn't go to the grandfather, grandmother. It goes directly to the student. I hand them a check. That's how it's passed on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steckel. And the check's made out for the full $1,500 amount to the parent. So we'll get back with everyone via the website in terms of how to claim that on your 2023 tax year. Okay, as with customary in the first quarter of the year for the past 7 or 8 years, Ms. May, the Project Management Day of Service, which is the annual feature event of the Project Management for Change nonprofit, which grew from the sister chapters of PMI here in the National Capital Region, is coming up, and here to share the news and for a call for action for everyone in the room is longtime chapter member, Ms. Beth May, their executive director of the event. Round of applause for Ms. May.
Thank you, Matt. So I know a lot of you already know about the event. In fact, many of you probably already participated. And if you have ever participated, you're in our database and you would have probably would have received an email last night, unless you've already registered. That email went to everyone in our database who hasn't already registered to participate. It's in 2 weeks. It's on Saturday, the 18th. We've shortened it up a little bit. It will run from 9 to 3 this year. Because everyone's experiencing a little bit of virtual meeting fatigue. We have 14 projects from 12 nonprofits registered, and we need at least a few more project management volunteers. And for those of you who don't know about the event, we pair project managers such as yourselves. You can be very experienced or hardly experienced. It doesn't matter. We have the full range. We pair 2 to 4 PMs with a nonprofit, and they work on a project, scoping a project that will address a critical need for the nonprofit. These are typically smaller nonprofits that don't understand project management and can't afford to hire project managers or have consulting. And so there's a great deal of value being given to these nonprofits because the PMs don't just do something for them, they mentor them, they help them understand how to do it for themselves. And at the end of the event, we always have about 10 or 15 minutes of sharing where I ask the participants, how do you feel about what happened today? And the nonprofits invariably get up with and take the microphone. If it's in person this year, it's virtual again. Hopefully next year will be in person. And they will unmute in this case and will give eye-watering testimony as to how wonderful the experience was for them to work with PMs who understood what they needed and were able to help them. So please come be a part of that. And oh, by the way, there are PDUs as well. And registration closes this Friday night at midnight. So Saturday, at some point on Saturday morning, our IT team is going to take down the registration link. So please register by Friday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. May. Okay, a book alert. A soon-to-be bestseller from friends of our chapter from Leadership Techniques, Lisa Hammer and David Newman, who have presented to our chapter over our 19-year history, at least double-digit time. They wrote the engagement matrix, which is more challenging you as a project manager of how you can stay engaged with your projects, your teams, your organization. For less than $20, you can have the paperback on your doorstep by Saturday, and it's also free to Amazon Kindle Unlimited subscribers for those who prefer to read on your phone or app and don't want the clutter. Okay, training alert. As Ms. May stated, the Project Management Day of Service was a face-to-face event pre-pandemic that was held at the University of Maryland Stamp Student Union. Jim Henson and Kermit the Frog have their statue outside. The University of Maryland's been great at really focusing on project management, and it's really one of the leaders of state universities around the country that has a center of excellence for project management, and other universities are benchmarking. They're having their symposium in April. This will be an in-person, virtual, or hybrid. You see the price difference for which works best for you. A lot of us working for the federal government or in the private sector have an annual education and training allowance. This would be a great usage of those funds made available to you. Keynote speakers include Laura Bernard, who's one of the Project Management for Change founders and board members, Dr. Al Zatan, who's been a PMI Global board member in the past and has presented our chapter in past symposiums. For those that went to a baseball game in the past year and saw the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge and all the 3 or 4 arches that are on that bridge and wondered where that came from or how it got put together, there'll be a presentation on the retrospective of that, more on the construction. Tuesday, March 23rd. This will be free to all members and non-members of PMI. So if you have your staff or colleagues that you think would benefit from the topics or need PDUs or other education units, this is a great opportunity. It doesn't look like we have our Toastmasters rep here, but our sister organization, the PMI Montgomery County Toastmasters group, meets the week after we do, and then the last Wednesday of the month as well. They're still meeting virtually, but for those who want to become better public speakers coming out of the pandemic, as you're not so much on Zoom and in face-to-face settings again, this is a great opportunity. For those new to the chapter, it's a great opportunity to meet other chapter members and build that network. Our chapter partners are still doing great things. Many of them are going back to face-to-face engagements, as I think a lot of the professional development associations around the country are. So again, if you have a training allowance, for new members who don't have their PMP yet, they offer great PMP prep for those who want to challenge themselves for one of the discipline agile certifications or the portfolio manager cert or the program manager cert. Some great opportunities out there, and stay tuned to our website and the training calendar for information on that. Okay, so coming into 2023, I personally am one of the New Year's resolutions, New Year's goals people. I was amped up like around Christmas, set Google Sheets up for tracking, came out of it 3 or 4 days into the new year and got overwhelmed and fell into my same habits. I even had a colleague the second week of the year be like, if you went back to the 2019 version of yourself, you were more on top of things back then, which I took as a compliment that I was ever on top of things. But in retrospect, when I broke things down, and I still kept the data tracking, even if it was just reminding me of being an underachiever, it really came down to energy. So we're very grateful to have Miss Cathy Richards here, who's going to speak to us about our workplace energy and has some tips and techniques and framework of how we can keep that up, how we can avoid the after lunch blues, how if we have jobs where 8 hours isn't enough, and after all your personal life responsibilities, you have to log back in at 9 or 10 o'clock, how you can keep that up. So we're really looking forward to this presentation. Ms. Richards has been lived in Montgomery County her whole life. So she generously donated some books, which will be raffled off throughout the presentation. So don't leave your seat. If anyone doesn't have a raffle ticket right now, please raise your hand so Ms. Trayvon can give one to them. We know our virtual people are like, what about us? So to make it fair, we have 15 books, 12 will be raffled in person and 3 will be awarded to our virtual attendees. And we'll choose those names from a random number generator. I'll put those in chat and I'll work with you to either get them in the mail or drop them off at your mailbox in the next week or two. Ms. Richards is a long tenured employee of Marriott International. I know we have many Marriott International members of our chapter. I'm not sure if we have any in the room. Does anyone work for Marriott or? Okay, great, welcome. And I think coaching and lifestyle coach and personal coach is a big buzzword right now, but Ms. Richards has the academic pedigree to go with it and has really studied and understands the science of it. So we're in for a real treat, and welcome Ms. Richards to the Montgomery County stage for the first time.
Well, you know, one thing we have going for us besides New Year's resolutions is something called Fresh Start February. Have you heard of that? So you haven't missed your chance. In fact, that's one of my core messages is you've never missed your chance. I'm going to step over here. You guys mind if I come over here? I don't like being behind the podium. So the high energy leadership edge. Who wants to have more energy here? Anybody? Yeah, I think we all do. And one of the things we're going to showcase today is that energy is going to help us not just in our personal lives, but also in our professional lives. And when I went around to some of the tables before we started, I tried to find out if there were some specific things that some of you might be hoping that we cover today. And that kind of came up about, you know, the stress or the long days or being pulled in a lot of directions, feeling burnt out. So we're going to look at strategies that we can give ourselves a boost in all those different ways. My book is called Boom, and it is because Boom stands for a wake-up call, a call to action. Sometimes I don't have any free hands here, but someone goes, boom, done. Have you ever done that before? Done, right? So let's think about that as a mindset for the different health and well-being goals that you might have. And the 3 components of Boom is a strong body, like, you know, this guy, sharp brain, and I love that graphic. It is like one of my favorite graphics of my whole slide. Does anyone else want to have a thumb drive in their head? That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it be? And endless energy. So those 3 things are one. What's really exciting is that a lot of times we get burnt out, to use that phrase again, from all the different things we think we're supposed to do. Like, what are we supposed to do to have a strong body? And then we think about brain health, and there's this whole other list of things we think we need to do to have healthy brains. We see a lot in the media about being concerned with brain health, dementia, those type of things as we age, and then having more energy. And lucky for us, it's the same list, the same habits that can affect all 3 of those things, creating some efficiencies, right? I would think as project managers, efficiencies is a good thing. Yes, you guys like that. So when you have a stronger body, it does impact not just your physical health, your physical strength, but you're sick less, both having less pain, and also, I'm in your way, aren't I? I want to move this thing out of the way. That's what I'm going to do. That's better. Now I can do better for everything. Just the camera. Yeah, someone's only seeing the top of my head. You're right. I'm a little bobbing head there. And feeling better physically is really, physical movement is the #1 way to improve brain function. We'll get into that in more detail, but a lot of times we think that when someone says brain fitness, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Crossword puzzles or Sudoku, whatever, however you say that word. It's actually physical exercise. Physical exercise is the best way to improve. You knew that, right? You tapped your guy next to the person next to you. Did you know that? Yeah. Oh, poker game. Oh, okay. No, different topic. Okay.
Jocks are so smart.
That's right. So, and the part about the sharp brain is it's about concentration, and it's also about processing speed and mental clarity. Lots of different topics about how our brain functions at all phases of life. So it's not just about older adults. Having the physical stamina and mental stamina to just feel good. Who wants to feel like these people? Oh, it's like pretty good jumping, huh? Okay, so I like to start off with a story. This is my son, Jeff. So I was talking with my table mates about all our different college age kids, and a lot of us have a lot of kids. I have 6 kids, but Jeff is the one who gets to be featured in all my talks. So he doesn't mind. And so when he was in middle school and high school, some of you might have had someone in your household like Jeff. He was this discombobulated kid who had this backpack filled with binders of dog-eared papers. None of them were in the prongs, and everything was just a big jumbled mess. Anybody have someone like that? Except these days, of course, they don't even have paper anymore. Everything's electronic, so that dates him already. I would try to help him organize his binders on the weekend. And I was a type A organized person, as I'm sure a lot of you are, right? Project managers. I would help him reorganize things. And I would say, Jeff, how do you find everything in this mess? Don't you want to figure this out better? And his response to me always was, Mom, that's future Jeff's problem. Okay. So future Jeff became a household member. All right. We were always referencing future Jeff. What was future Jeff going to think about this? I would say future Jeff really cares what present Jeff is doing. Well, he paid me no mind, but he was a bright kid. So he did graduate with honors, did go off to Purdue on a Naval ROTC scholarship. And while he was there, he started to employ his same habits that he had in high school. Okay. And guess what? Do you think his same habits worked well in college? No, the stakes were a bit higher. The wheels started falling off a bit. So when you're in college and you're supposed to be up for an early class and you have PT for the Navy, even earlier than that, sometimes he'd miss PT. Navy doesn't like that. Sometimes you make it to PT, you get back to your apartment, you fall asleep with an apple in your hand, you miss a major presentation, have to retake the entire class. How many of you have kids who had similar stories kind of like that? We've all had these kind of things that happen. You get these phone calls. And then that was one of his wake-up calls. Did I say that phrase earlier? Wake-up call. Calls me up, Mom, I think I'm going to start using a calendar. And then he goes, and a to-do list. And I think my phone has an alarm. So yeah, I did hold back a little bit. I try not to be, I told you so, Mom. But what ended up happening is he did change his habits. And so I'm happy to say that he ended up graduating from Purdue. He commissioned into the Navy upon graduation, and he's now stationed on the USS Fitzgerald in San Diego, and just got back from deployment a bit ago, and he's doing well. So good for Jeff. Yeah. What does that have to do with us here today? Well, my next question to you. So I go from Jeff graduating college. Oh my gosh, Gerald, I'm so sorry. I have to get out of your way. With this question, I want to pose all of you. I will bet no one has ever asked this question of you before. What type of 85-year-old do you want to be? Has anyone ever asked you that before? Yes? What would you say? Yeah. The ones jumping up and down in the bed. That's right. Who has a adjective? You shout it out. Energetic, active. See, someone always says that. Someone always says above ground or alive. And then my question to you is that really the bar?
The start.
It's a start, but when you really think about it, it kind of encompasses what we're going to talk about today. We are living longer, but isn't the quality of those years important? We don't want to be this person on the far left here. So when we look at the MacArthur Foundation studies, this is one of the studies that was done that was a landmark study about successful aging. We look at the typical aging trajectory is this dark line here, where we have function that goes up till like we're a young adult, and we kind of maintain nice functioning during a lot of our adulthood. And then at some point, we start the slippery slope. And then it just goes down, 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 gradually, gradually, gradually. Anybody feel like they're on the slide, right? When we think about what we want to happen and what in fact our bodies are capable of happening is maintaining a high level of functioning to a ripe old age, having some type of blip that causes something to happen, and then a nosedive and we die. Yeah, that's what we all want to happen, right? I have a colleague who wrote a book called Live Long, Die Short. And my mom had a phrase she would say to us, which is, I want to die with my tennis shoes on. And so that's something that I think we all want to do when we think about our wishes for our healthy aging. And when we want to ask ourselves what determines which path we have, we know through research that up to 70% of the difference in how people age is determined by what? It's lifestyle. We like to blame things on genetics or bad luck, but that is true about 30% of the time. So we do want to fully respect that there's some of the time that it's bad luck or genetics. But if I had a 70% chance of improving my aging, I want to do what I can. How about you? Right? So if we want to age well, we want to follow the example who's doing it well, right? So has anyone heard of the Blue Zones or read any of the Blue Zone books? So when Dan Buettner studied the different pockets of the world, different either geographical areas or different kind of ethnic groups that have the highest percentage of people living past the age of 100, it came up 3 of these groups. The Seventh-day Adventists, Sardinians, and Okinawans were among the healthiest. They had the highest percentage of people living past 100. So what did they have in common? They eat a high percentage of fruits and vegetables in their daily life. They put family first. They're active every day. They prioritize social encounters, and they don't smoke. Now, are any of these surprising? No. As an American culture, how often do we maybe associate with the phrase, I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to do it? Does that sound familiar? Sometimes it's the simplest things in theory that we just aren't quite figuring out how to put into practice in the right way. So these are the things that make the most difference. And a lot of times we're saying, well, I kind of am doing that, but blah, 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 blah. And I kind of am trying this one, but then this happened. Or I was kind of doing that one, but, and it kind of just gets mixed up and gets kind of messy. So one of the examples I want to give to you that really can highlight one of the opportunities that we have specific to lifestyle is leg strength. This is a statistic that you can share with your friends and family members and coworkers, and no one will probably know this. So it'll be kind of a cool thing. When we look at the 60-year snapshot between the ages of 20 and 80, the average American will lose 50% of their leg strength. So what would it feel like to only have 50% of your leg strength? What do you think it would feel like?
Wobbly.
Wobbly. So if we were going to give an example, let's just say, anybody want to be my example person? Matt, stand up, Matt. Okay, so Matt's going to stand over there on that side of the table. Go ahead. You be Matt number 1. Face them and be Matt number 1. Okay, now hop a bit to the left and be Matt number 2. No, step over to the left. Just like, there you go. Okay, so if you had half your leg strength, yeah, when you were age 80, then it would feel the same as if you had the same, if you had the same body weight with half your leg strength, wouldn't that feel the same as having your current leg strength, but having two of you. Yes. So I need mat number 1 to pretend he's picking up mat number 2 on piggyback. Okay. And then how would you walk if you had mat number 2 on piggyback? Have you ever seen anyone walking along the street that might look a bit like that? Might need to stop and take a rest when they get to a bench. Yeah. Somebody who might be 80 years old, right? So thank you, Matt. You're done. Good job there. All right. So the question is that if you were, is that a foregone conclusion? Is that genetic? Is that based on physiology? No. It's due to the gradual loss of muscle that comes from the gradual inactivity that typically comes with aging. So it is not a physiological thing at all. And the exercise called a sit to stand is something that we do typically with older adults in an exercise setting. And that would be simply, can you get up from a chair without using your hands? If you are somebody or know someone in your life who, when they're sitting down, the way they get up is to go like this, then you know they've lost leg strength. Okay. So the question is, are you able to, or your loved ones who might be around 80, able to cross their hands over their chest, lean forward and stand up just like that? Okay. That's test 1. Can you get up one time? Sometimes, so you're like, shoo, right? Just wait, it's coming. All right. So sometimes someone might go, what? All right, here we go. And you can't quite get up. So there's one strategy for people who fall into that category, but there's a whole test we do called the Senior Fit Test, which one of those components is how many can you do in 30 seconds? So are you ready? So what we're going to do is those of you who would like to participate, if you have like a knee problem or some other reason why you don't want to participate, that's okay. But if you want to participate, back yourself away from your table a bit, move some stuff out of your way, and you're going to sit close to the end of your chair and you're going to cross your arms over your chest. You can go ahead and do one to practice. See if you can stand up and then sit back down. You don't,
We have to cross our arms. Is that smart?
no, you don't have, it's just to get your arms out of the way and make sure you don't use them and cheat and like push off the chair. Oh, here's a couple of raffle tickets. Okay. What can I do after I do this thing? Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to stand all the way up and come back down, tap your butt on the chair, back up. So it's how many of these can you do in 30 seconds? Now, the shorter you are, you do have a bit of an advantage. The taller you are, you have a little disadvantage, but you do have to tap your chair. All right. And you have to count your own because I'm going to be busy looking at the stop timer and you have to see how many you can do in 30 seconds. Are you ready? Set, go. All right. Up and down, up and down. Good, good, good. You don't have to take a little video, do you? All right. Go, go, go. Good, good. I gotta get back to the timer. 20 seconds. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Are you tired yet? 25, almost there. Some of you don't have good shoes on though. 30, stop. All right. Woo, give yourselves a hand. Now, a couple things. Number 1, do you feel more energetic already? Who might want to do this at your next staff meeting, right? Get the energy pumping, getting it up. All right, so in the Zoom meetings, yes. So here's the thing. Number 1, if you are sore tomorrow, that's not good. Okay, this is a test for the 85-year-old. So I hope you're not sore tomorrow. We need an intervention. My business cards are right there. You can call me. Don't call me to complain about how sore your quads are. Call me if you would like some help. But so here, how many of you got more than 10? Congratulations, you're not in the high risk category for an 85-year-old. All right, that's very good. All right, so, but again, like I said, I try to make light of this, but someone could have musculoskeletal issues or some other reason why they can't do more than 10. So that's okay. Everyone just, you know, you are where you are in your progression here. How many got more than 15? More than 20? More than 25? More than 30? 3? I would like to give 3 books to this people. Can we do that? No, it's just these raffles. I can't. Oh, we have to do a replay. Okay, someone pass these back to the three people that raised their hand for the more than 30. That was pretty good. All right. So, yes.
I think over the past 10 years, standing desks have become more norm, even in the
Yeah.
the Pentagon. I'd say 20 or 30% of the desks are standing desks. Like, is this a myth? Is there factual evidence to this?
Absolutely. Standing desks are fantastic if you can concentrate that way, and if you have a good floor, because you want the floor surface to be good that you're standing on too. It is good to move all day. Sometimes it can be just as beneficial just to get up and walk around every hour. You do not want to sit all day long. If you heard the phrase "sitting is the new smoking," even if you were to exercise an hour a day every single day, if in addition to that being your lifestyle, you sit for 8 hours a day, you are at risk of heart disease, at a higher risk. So exercise can't protect you if you also sit all day long, the other 23 hours, if we're sitting in line. That's not great. So getting up and moving around, our muscles, our joints are made to move. Sometimes standing for extended periods of time isn't that great either. But metabolically speaking, and I did take out the slide for this, so I will address it, that when you're sitting, we burn about 1 calorie per minute. Okay, the minute that we stand, we're burning 1.5 calories per minute. So you are 50% more metabolically active, burning 50% more calories when we're standing. That's why we do want to have more standing, more moving instead of less sitting. Lying down is about 0.8. Okay, so pretty cool, huh? That little thing that we can change this. So it's not just leg strength, but so many things that we attribute to aging. Don't we love to blame things on aging? I mean, we really do. Obviously you can tell in my business, it's one thing that grates on my nerves when I hear someone say, "Yeah, well, I just turned." Sometimes they start really young. Sometimes people say, "Well, I just turned 30, or I just turned 40, or I just turned 50." And at every year, let me know if you guys, I've pretty much, when I ask this, I get the same answer. No matter what age you are in this room, how many of you feel like, "I can't believe I'm already this old"? The first time I thought, "I can't believe I'm this old," I was 25. If it's great, if it's in a positive side. Most people mean it in a negative way. Most people feel like they, that their better years are behind them and they wish they were younger. It's a youth-centered culture a lot of times. But when you're looking at it as far as wisdom, and also as far as just having experienced so many things. I was at my uncle's 90th birthday party last month, and to think, we were congratulating him. Like, you know what? How many people get to live to 90 and have this many grandchildren and great grandchildren? And we don't all get that. So it is something to be celebrated when we live to an older age. But back to this, many of the things we attribute to aging are due to the gradual inactivity that comes with aging, both physical and mental, not the physiological aging process itself. But the good news is that a lot of it is both preventable and reversible. And the tagline for my book, "It's never too early and it's never too late." So that tagline and the whole idea for my book came from when I started off working at Marriott. Where was the Marriott person over here? So I worked at Marriott like in the, I guess I should say the 90s. Most of the 90s is where I worked there. This is an example of people who are aging really well. Actually, let me go back here because I'm not ready to talk about them yet. When I say it's never too early or late, so when I was at Marriott, I was working with corporate wellness in a corporate wellness field, and we had a corporate wellness program for the employees at the corporate headquarters building in the 90s when I was there. And there's corporate wellness has come and gone through many organizations as the economy has, right? And at that time, I was, as Matt had mentioned, grew up locally. I was just kind of used to this area, and people would come in from wherever they grew up and went to college and come to this corporate area, and they would wonder how to get hooked into living a healthy lifestyle here. And they were all really busy. They all didn't have time for anything. So I had to learn how to relate to this corporate population, felt too busy to be healthy. And then I left the corporate world. And then when I came back, I did wellness and fitness in a senior living community. And so when I was in the senior living community, the average age there was 85. So that's where I came up with that phrase, what type of 85-year-old you want to be. Because if you were suddenly plunked into a campus that had 1,400 people with the average age of 85, you might notice a few things, right? And so what I noticed when we start looking at this next slide here is that there are some people who were traveling the world, who were doing Zumba, who were writing their memoirs, and there were people who had significant cognitive and physical ailments that you wouldn't wish upon yourself or your family members. So I would ask myself, how do you know which kind you're going to be? How do I know what kind of 85-year-old I'm going to be? So the tagline, and I didn't ask of it to you early on when I was asking you what type of 85-year-old you want to be, the follow-up to that is because you're working on it right now. We are working on it right now. And a lot of times when we think about our trajectory between now and 85, we think about all those years and those decades leading up to the age of 85, rather than you don't determine what type of 85-year-old you're going to be at the age of 84, right? You're working on it right now. And it's all those habits that we establish at some point early in our life that we just keep going with. And here are some examples of some 85-year-olds and beyond that are doing phenomenal things. So this senior Olympic swimming team has a combined age of about 360, I think. And this is Dashon Wang Dashon, and he got recruited in his 70s to be a model. Some of you know Ernestine Shepherd, who's a female bodybuilder in the Washington, D.C. area. Madame Poole is a prima ballerina into her 90s. And Tao Porchon Lynch just passed away a few years ago at over 100 years old. In addition to being a famous yogi, she was on America's Got Talent with like a 27-year-old dance partner, and when she was in her 90s. We don't have to have goals like that, but we do better when we have some type of goal of what we want to be like when we're 85 and start taking those steps right now. So boom does mean a wake-up call to action, and have that sense of resolve of what we want to do with it. I don't have a magic wand. People ask me like, well, what's the key? Well, it's no magic wand. It's nothing that I'm going to say today is going to sound brand new. And that's why I like to say this disclaimer early on, because it still comes back to what are we going to take to heart a little more today? And what tiny habits can we change now that we can still see ourselves doing a year from now? My business name is Inspiring Vitality, because I focus on all my different talks on the inspirational aspect. How can we motivate ourselves to do this stuff we know we need to do? Not that I'm telling you something brand new. So to tell you we should eat more fruits and vegetables, drink more water, and get more sleep is not news. But how many of us are doing that? Some of you are. That's good. And that's great. But so when we think about what areas we each want to tweak a bit, how can we do that? So there's nothing actually, not new information today, hopefully new inspiration, hopefully a new angle, new stories that will help you. But I said I have no magic wand, but I do have a magic pill. So you take one instead of the other. So my magic pill lowers your risk of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, increases your bone density, which decreases your risk of osteoporosis, strengthens your heart and lungs, your muscles, bones, improves flexibility, cholesterol, reduces back pain, stress, blood pressure, helps you sleep better, brain function, and helps you lose weight and increases your energy. Who wants the pill? Only a few of you. Only a few of you. Honestly, someone always raises, where's the skeptics who are going to say, what are the side effects? Exactly. No, there's no side effects. When you read the bottle of the pill, it says definitely you've proven to get those things. The difference is the one catch is my pill is in a pedestrian only zone. You have to walk there a quick 10 minutes and then walk back. You're laughing, or you guys already think you know where this is going, don't you? And you can't get a whole bottle all at once. You have to just come and get today's dose. And tomorrow you come back for tomorrow's dose. But if you look at the pill bottle, because we believe if it's on a pill bottle, it's going to work, right? Will you come to my pharmacy? Who will come to my pharmacy? Well, what's the truth here? What if the magic pill was the walk? Then people say, oh, she's just talking about exercise again. So I go all over the place talking about exercise and how awesome it is for us. And the thing is that every time I do this talk, I re-energize myself. I remotivate myself, because it's easy to forget. Because where are the things that get in the way of exercising regularly? Are they like right here? Are they the kids that forgot their glasses that you need to drop off at the school? Is it the last minute project? Is it the, a sick dog that just threw up over the crate? I mean, it's always something, isn't it? It's always something. So how are we going to figure out how we can fit this in and make sense in our daily lives? So it's the most effective diet pill we sell. Chase it around handball court for an hour a day. And that's a super, super old cartoon, but it still gets the point across, doesn't it? That we believe we are more likely as Americans. I don't know how many of you are from or spent significant time in a different country, different culture. Some of this is specific to the American culture, but even if you were born in another country, most people who live here tell me it didn't take them long. Something adopt our ways, our ways of processed foods, our ways of couch potato-ness or whatever it might be. So don't we tend to put so much faith in a medicine, in a pill, in a bottle, in the shelves of a GNC store, versus why are we not putting as much faith in our own bodies, what our own bodies can do without any side effects? So amazing stuff. See, I read my own mind. I knew that slide was next. Why do we place more faith in pills than what our bodies are capable of? When the fact is that exercise has more far-reaching benefits and more categories of our life than any other single thing we can do. And it used to be, except for quitting smoking if you're a smoker, and now it's surpassed that with research. And the reason why I like to mention this is because when we're busy and we're stressed out and people have asked me, how can I figure out what I can cut out and what I need to add in? If you are too busy to do all kinds of different things for your health, this would be the one that should stay because it affects more things. It affects your brain and it affects your energy and it affects your cholesterol. It affects more things in more categories. And also, including these things that we're talking about today, but it doesn't have to be a lot. That's one of the things that is the other big message of Boom, is that there are significant benefits to be gained from even modest investments of time. And what happens most of the time is people think, oh, exercise, that's that thing that takes too much time and you get to get all sweaty and you have to change your clothes and drive somewhere and join a gym. And I don't have time for all that. And I was never one of those kind of people. Does anyone agree with that or feel like that's them? Well, what's that? Didn't want to be a gym rat. Well, the good news is you don't have to be. So there are significant benefits you can gain from just doing something that takes 10 to 15 minutes at home. And there are small things that we can do. So when we look at this, it's magic pill. If exercise really is, why aren't we all exercising? Why aren't we start sounding like this, right? Except again, nobody turns in homework on paper anymore. So when my college kids come home, they say, well, no, I still have to turn in some stuff. It's due at midnight tonight. So they don't turn things in before they leave, right? Everything's due by midnight electronically these days. So it's kind of funny. It's totally different. How many of us think we're waiting to get motivated? I have news for you. It's not going to come knocking on your door. That's not the way motivation works. How many of you have heard or believe that action causes motivation versus the other way around, right? That's what we need to look at. We need to get moving, get started in something, some tiny way. And then we start feeling more motivated. And so let's look at some of the mindsets that are going to help us and some of the mindsets that trip us up. The three most frequent mindsets that stop us is that we don't have a sense of urgency. We think you got to die something, or, I haven't seen results yet. We're kind of looking for that quick. We're thinking results are going to come pretty darn quick. And when they don't, we give up a lot of times. Anybody struggle with that? It's kind of that our culture, again, has conditioned us. We see these commercials and we think it's supposed to happen overnight. And we tend to do things in this all or none way. Either we're all in and then we burn ourselves out and then we stop. So if we took a different approach of doing small little changes, like think of one small change that you can make that you think will be good for your health, that you can still see yourself doing a year from now with no end in sight, would be better than doing something extreme that you're going to start and stop 16 times, and then the 12 weeks is going to go through anyway. How many of us have calculated how many pounds we would lose in the next 2 months if we started today and we ate perfectly? And then after we fall off the wagon, we say, no, now I'll recalculate it starting today. And then we recalculate that over and over again. What if we took a more modest approach, something we could actually stick with? Because what happens otherwise is the year's going to go by anyway. And so we would be better off starting something small than starting and stopping things so many times and end up being worse off a lot of times in that year. So the strategies that can help us, it is when we weigh those costs and benefits. So for instance, when I started off with my magic pill, that's pumping up the benefits. Sometimes the benefits are more vague. We want them to come to life. And then the things that are the obstacles, we need to kind of problem solve those, chip away at those little by little, because guess what? Who's the best expert on your life and what you're juggling? You are. And how many other categories of your life have you problem solved? Figured out, how am I going to how am I going to make this work? In fact, when something changes in our life, we're pretty good at reorganizing. How many of you have ever had a baby? Have a child, okay? Did you tell yourself, what the heck did I ever do with my time before this child was born? Like, what did I seriously do before I had this child? Because suddenly you're doing all these other things. How about getting married? How about getting a pet? How about having an aging parent to care for? Whenever these life changes happen, we reconfigure, don't we? We reconfigure. How many of you have ever had a real health scare and been like, whoo, I got to change something? So sometimes that's how change happens. We get a scare. Sometimes it's tiny things that build up over time to form like a tipping point where suddenly we have this need to make a change. So it could happen all of a sudden, or it could be a result of several things. But some of these strategies are the ones that are going to help us the most, that if we look at lower our expectations, sometimes just getting there is the goal. Have you ever said to yourself, I'll just do 5 minutes? If you tell yourself, I'm just gonna get out my stretching mat, I'm gonna stretch for 5 minutes. What would the devil's advocate say?
Do it tomorrow.
That's right. Well, do it tomorrow's one, but what's 5 minutes gonna do? Right? But what will 5 minutes do? Once you're doing it, you probably will do more, but also it'll get the habit started. The habit is what's more important to me than the content. The habit can grow and evolve. The content can grow and evolve over time. But if you ain't got habit, you ain't got nothing. So especially like as a personal trainer, I have clients come to me, and I don't do this anymore because I challenge them in the beginning when people come to me. Somebody might say, this is what I want to look like in this many weeks. So that magic wand thing, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So instead, what we want to think about is that instead of saying these short-term goals, really like stringent short-term goals, we want to set those long-term goals and see how our body's going to respond to them. And then we can adjust them as we go along, because I don't want anyone paying me a lot of money for something that's this big, complicated, over ambitious routine that someone can do 3.5 times or 3.5 weeks, right? Then they've wasted their money. So if it's not realistic for your lifestyle, what good is it? If it's not sustainable. So we want something sustainable, and then a lot of times we can accelerate it over time. Taking the emotion out of it means that how many of us clean the toilet? How many of us love it? Do we just do it because it's got to be done? Do we ever want, I got to do, no, we just do it. There are some things we do in our life just because that's what needs to be done. So even though we find something you like with exercise, that's great. But sometimes people can say, I don't like any of it. I don't want to do any of it. It's like, okay, well, then aren't there other things in our life that we do just because we have to do them and we know it's good for us? And so if we take the emotion out of it and just check it off our list, a lot of times people who feel that way do best with the first thing in the morning, just knock it out. And sometimes, again, it's short. I was working when some of my kids were little, I wrote my first book. It was called The Busy Mom's Ultimate Fitness Guide. And I would have moms, stay-at-home moms, tell me there's no way. I can't do it. I don't want to give up nap time. I can't get up earlier, and I'm not going to stay up later. And then the weekends are busy. It's like, well, okay, let's think about this. What if you gave up 20 minutes of one nap, 1 week, one nap, pick a day of the week, and then try to make sure you get a 20-minute block on a weekend. And then we find one other 20-minute block. And somehow it feels more reasonable, doesn't it? A lot of times we have this all or none mindset about the time slots we're looking at too. admitting ownerships and priorities. So again, I've had clients, I had a client once who was not even 50. He was in his late 40s. He was always canceling appointments. He's way too important to keep his appointments. Unfortunately, I shouldn't make jokes because what happened next is he had a heart attack. And guess what? He didn't cancel his cardiac rehab appointments. No, he made those. So a scare will do that to you, won't it? So we don't wish that upon ourselves before we take it seriously. How about the other end, like a incentive? What if your employer was going to reward everyone who exercised regularly with a $1,000 bonus at the end of the month if you exercise 3 times a week without fail? Who suddenly has time to exercise? Right? So it's never about time. It's always about just reshuffling based on our priorities. And everything can't be a priority all at once. So, but we can strategize. So when we think about our mindset being the biggest issue that we have in getting started, a lot of times I like to use the imagery of the garden of our mind, that what are we planting in our head? Because what we're thinking on, have you heard the phrase, what you focus on grows? Any Napoleon Hill fans here? No, okay, what you focus on grows. So if you focus on the negative, what's going to grow? If you focus on the positive, what's going to grow? So we're thinking about whether we can get this going or not. Our mindset is a positive mindset. Thinking about stress too. If we are purposely planting beautiful flowers, fragrant herbs, delicious vegetables in our garden, or is our garden of our mind the result of weeds that are blowing in the wind? Like whatever's just blowing around is gonna plant. No, and are we weeding it? Are we weeding out our garden? Are we taking out the bad stuff, leaving the good stuff, pouring fertilizer and water? We want to make sure that what we're planning to do and what we're trying to do, that we're focused on that in a positive way. In fact, anyone know Kyle Snyder? Local? Oh, wrestler. That's right. Wrestling coach. So he wrestled at the same high school that my boys went to, Our Lady of Good Counsel. And he came back, spoke to the wrestlers one year, and they asked him, he has the winningest record of like all wrestlers ever, something close to that, right? And they asked him, what made you so successful? Why do you think you were so successful? And he said, bar none, the biggest difference he had was his mindset. He said when he was going into a match, he did not allow a negative thought. He trained his mind to think of the positive. He trained his mind to not allow negativity, and he's preparing for a match. So when we think about what we're struggling with, whether it's stress, a lot of times these are some of the things we talk about with burnout, is that mindset. We feel overwhelmed and we think, oh, I can't do this, it's too much. What if we said to ourselves instead, I'll take it one step at a time. I can handle this. I can make time for this. And we filled our minds with these positive things instead of I look fat, I feel fat, I have no energy. Thinking about the positive things we can say that can make a difference in how we feel. So here again, changing our dialogue from the negative things to the positive things. It makes you, even when you say this in your head, you feel a shift in your mood. You feel a shift in in how successful you think you can be. So that habit is what's more important than content. Taking those small steps, doing things like, has anyone ever done something like 75 hard? If you have or haven't heard that, that's a big thing about mental grit. Anything that you're trying to do about creating a habit, mental toughness is what's going to help us with our health habits as well.
75 hard, just drinking a gallon of water a day was one of the harder parts.
Yeah, so I don't usually mention, but so 75 hard means it's a challenge made by an entrepreneur named Andy Frizzell. And you have to do 2 workouts a day. They're each 45 minutes. One has to be outdoors and one can be indoors. You drink a gallon of water a day. You read 10 pages of something inspirational. You eat a clean diet, no cheat meals or alcohol, and you take a progress picture every day. 75 days without fail. And it's not a weight loss plan. It's just designed to create mental grit. So if you're interested in something like that, it's interesting. I was never a fan because it's kind of hardcore for people who aren't doing anything right now. But you know, it's an interesting approach. I didn't say this part. I did. The meaningful benefits from even modest investments of time. But the big message for all of us is that we can't afford not to. When we think about what type of 85-year-old we want to be and how it's going to affect not just our 85-year-old self, but our present self also. So we started off talking about the same things that are going to change our health and our longevity and our healthy aging are also going to change our energy right now, our productivity right now, our leadership advantage right now. I call the click factor when suddenly you just figure out this is just the way I do things. So how many of you have something in your life that you just do, that no one gives you a pat on the back for and you just do it? Lots of things. How about brushing your teeth? No one ever says, I just didn't have time. Nope, just didn't have time. I left the house without brushing my teeth, right? One time, I did have someone annoy and say, no, I didn't have time. It's like the room got really quiet. But there are things we can do. Does anyone here have back pain? Back pain is pretty darn common. Okay, so on your tables, one of those little cards I have there has a recipe for improving back pain on one side. It has some superfoods on the other. One or two of your tables have the typo for avocado. And I finally got rid of that box. Now the other avocados are all spelled correctly. So if you have avocado spelled wrong, it's like a collector's item. All right. So, but back pain can be alleviated and prevented in about 2 minutes a day through strengthening our abdominal muscles and stretching our lower back muscles. But a lot of times, again, we think, oh, I got to go to the gym. I got to go to physical therapist. I have to do all this stuff. You can do it at home. You can do it at home in 2 minutes. Our body is phenomenal that way with improving and reducing back pain. But look at this one. What do you think about this? Yeah, not so good there, huh? Yeah. So if we were doing a well-rounded exercise routine, we want to hit all three of these things. But do you have to hit all three of these things? No. That's if you're doing nothing right now. If you're doing nothing, what would be great? Anything. Exactly. Anything is more than nothing. So more is better than less, but some is better than none. I will say that strength training, though, is the top secret weapon for women and also for men who've never done it. So I find that in my talks, there's two categories of people. Women have so much to gain from strength training because they traditionally have we have less muscle pound for pound on our bodies than men do. But there are also men who don't have experience with weight training and feel like I'm supposed to already know how to do it if I'm going to go there. I'm not going to go in there with all these guys who already know how to do it. So then they feel intimidated too. So whether you're a man who's never done weight training before or you're a woman, you got to start getting into the weights because this is our best opportunity to increase our metabolism, increase our cholesterol profile, to increase our leg strength, as I said, for your longevity, for your mobility. Who wants somebody else giving them a shower when they're 85? I'm serious. We don't want that. You want to be able to step into that. You want to be able to step in and out of things. You want to be able to get off the toilet. I mean, these are things that the time goes by, the years go by. How many of you are caring for older adults right now? I am. I mean, it comes around and we'll wish we had done more if it's us. So you can start now. That's again the big message is it's never too late. So it's never too early because our body, the earlier you start, the more likely you are to accumulate those benefits. But guess what? Even if we start at advanced ages, even if I took a 90-year-old and put dumbbells in their hands, they will get stronger. The body and the muscles never lose the ability to respond to exercise. So that's what's so amazing about it. I like to use the imagery of a towel when I talk about muscle. Dry towel, if you were to ball that up as small as you can, picture that. Then take the same towel, drench it in water, wring it out, and then ball that up as small as you can. Which one's going to be smaller? The wet one. Which one's going to be heavier? The wet one. Which one is going to be harder to the touch? The wet one. The wet one's firm and small but heavy. What is the wet towel? Muscle. What is the dry towel? Fat. That's why two people can weigh the same exact amount, but wear completely different clothing sizes and look a whole lot different too, based on how much fat versus muscle that you have on your body. So strength training is what gives you more of that muscle on your body and helps you increase your mobility and helps us look better at any weight. A lot of times people who might feel like they have weight to lose say, I don't want to lift weights till after I lose the weight. No, the weight training will help you lose weight and it will help you look better along the way. So it's really, really important and super, super valuable. So the framework of BOOM is that I look at exercise in 4 levels. So level 1 is just move. Okay, just doing something. Level 2 is a little bit more, it doesn't require any equipment at all. Level 3 is a little bit longer and uses some like home equipment like tubing and dumbbells and balls. And level 4 is someone who wants to go to a gym, is like already on track. But the good news is that you can go up a level, you can go down a level. My philosophy is you can't fall off the scale altogether. It's like a speedometer. So during the phases of your life or the phases of the year, you can ratchet it up, you can ratchet it down, and you want to have the tools to know, how can I lower what I do to fit in what's busy for me right now? And then when I have more time or more energy at another phase of life, I can amp it up. But I'm never going to stop altogether, because a lot of times we're either on track or off track. How many of you at some point exercised regularly and then stopped and then thought, I have to move heavens and earth to get restarted again? Right? It's really hard to restart. So if we have these levels, we never have to think about restarting, because we're just always just downshift a bit and then upshift a bit. And then I like to have the boom framework is to have a whole track for never too early, the kind of exercises that are suited for people who have good mobility and no health issues, and a whole track for never too late, which has more seated exercises, gentle exercises for people who might have musculoskeletal health issues or older. But I have plenty of older clients doing the never too early, because they're still have good mobility. Come on, there we go. We said that already. More is better than less, but some is definitely better than none. So look at these 2 pictures. So I know everybody thinks their dog is the cutest dog ever, but Biscuit, he really is. So one year though, I had a foot procedure done, and the same week, poor Biscuit had an eye procedure done, and he had it in the little cone. So when I walked him around the block, people would stop us and say, what happened to the 2 of you? So I had one of my kids take this picture, because I just thought I had to use it in some way. And then the following summer, this was actually my birthday, and Biscuit, I thought that was the most smiliest, best picture, photogenic dog ever. So I decided to start putting these 2 pictures next to each other to demonstrate what a difference a year can make. So when you think about what your health goals are, I would like you to think about a year from now. What can I do that I can still see myself doing a year from now? This is my client, Shelly, 2 Christmases apart. And I don't even think the biggest difference is her body. Look at her face. Look at her smile. Can you see how smiley she looks? She looks like she's just, her mood is lifted. This is a phrase somebody at Marriott said to me a very, very long time ago, and I've never forgotten it. Eat a donut, run like a donut. Better known as, you are what you eat. So we don't need to be exactly this person over here, but this one's not looking so good. I mentioned that we already know what's healthy and not healthy, right? But do we realize that poor nutrition and obesity is causing 300,000 deaths annually? And that it's increasing at an alarming rate. Come on, there we go. Oh, you got stuck? Okay. So sometimes I go through this. I have a slide for every year between these years, but I want you to take a minute to look at this. The CDC did a study every year, and in 1990, these are the colors of how the rates of obesity in the different states. Okay. On the whites one, they had no data. Light blue is less than 10% of that state was clinically obese. Dark blue was between 10 and 14%. Go up to the year 2000, there's none of this light blue or medium blue. It's all dark blue and now yellow. Then you go 10 more years later, there's hardly any yellow. There's more new colors. So when we look at it, it's less impactful than if I'd gone slide by slide by slide. A lot of times when I have more time, I go slide by slide, and you can see it change year by year, and then our jaws just drop. When we look at culturally what's happening over the years here in our culture, and the things that our nutrition choices are causing us. The word inflammation is tossed around a lot these days. Processed food is at the crux of so many of our discomforts in our joints, in our stomachs, in our bodies, causing all these things. So when we change the way we eat, a lot of times we start noticing, I don't want the junk because I just feel better. I just plain feel better. Stamina, brain power, and vitality, all 3. We know the things we're supposed to eat more of, pretty sure here. And these superfoods is on those cards and again at your table too. This is just my list of superfoods. Boy, we're cutting down to time, aren't we? Yeah.
I think the food coma after lunch, you don't want to have a meeting, and there's some experts or wise minds to say the best time to have a meeting is like 10 o'clock in the morning. Granted, time zones, the more global we become, that's kind of hard. But what's your peak time to have the most important meeting of the day?
You probably, I think 10 a.m. sounds about right. Definitely not afternoon and after lunch. Most people are feeling a little tired around that time, for sure. But standing meetings, walking meetings, I like those. A lot of times we know that how many people have felt like they get their best ideas while they're exercising? You know, so I always do. I keep a pad and pen in my workout room. I stop when I'm outside and put a little note in my phone. You know, it's great when we realize our brains are just really supercharged when we're moving. This is a list of foods that if you're eating a ton of these things, you have less opportunity to eat the other stuff. Loading up on all these things. Like I said, these are at your table in those little cards. And we know the things you're supposed to eat less of. So water is another thing that is a super important thing here. And that's what happens when the chat comes up, it disables it. That's what the thing is. Okay. So when we look at the afternoon slumps, see, Matt, you led right into that. Feeling like this in the afternoon, what are the things that most contribute to fatigue? So some of the people ask me about energy and what we do to increase our energy. So there are 4 factors that are the biggest things for fatigue. Now, guess what? I don't think you're going to be surprised by them. When you again look at them in totality, how they work together. Sleep deprivation obviously is the first thing, but guess what? We're not getting enough sleep. As a culture, we know we're not. I believe sleep hygiene is going to be the next biggest wellness trend. As far as us really appreciating the impact of sleep. And we tend to steal nighttime hours for daytime activities anytime we're busy. Anytime we have more to do, we just stay up late, we get up earlier, and we are paying a dear price. Our health is paying a price. So getting into a sleep routine is one of the most healthy things we can do. In fact, brain function is what's vitally important based on enough sleep, because that is when our tissue repair, rejuvenation, and memory retention and brain plaque reduction is happening. We know that cortisol levels are reduced during sleep. And if we're not sleeping enough, our cortisol levels stay high, and that's what creates overall inflammation. 5 minutes. Yeah. So too little sleep is linked to weight gain, depression, memory problems, and a weakened immune system. Inactivity contributes to fatigue. We know that we don't have the energy to exercise, but we know exercise will give us more energy. It feels like a chicken and an egg problem, but that's why the tips of just starting and doing something is what's going to get us somewhere, because inactivity makes us feel more lethargic. When we've had a major stressor, we know it literally drains us. And then we should also realize that means the small daily stressors also drain us. That is a zapper for our energy. And then this is, I'm sorry, that slide was out of order. So the things that can reduce our stress, we might have heard of all these things and know all these things, but which ones have we actually tried and implemented on a regular basis? I recently downloaded a 15-minute stress reduction meditation thing on Spotify, and I play it on my way driving to work. Just for 15 minutes. I know it's supposed to lie down with your eyes closed, but I'm just playing it while I'm driving to work, and I arrive at work feeling more relaxed. It's some of these times we want to think about just trying something new. Dehydration is the 4th one that we don't realize is such a factor for fatigue. So when we are dehydrated, it impacts all of these things in our body. So all 4 of these things together are what cause fatigue. And a lot of times we just focus on the sleep and we think that's it, but the other factors are just as important. Last topic here, our sharp brain, not just for older adults. This is what happens, how the increased brain activity from moving our body. The other things that improve our brain are learning a new skill, learning new language, any type of advanced learning or hobby. It's also going to be more than just, again, those crossword puzzles or Sudoku. So when you think about taking a dance class, That includes physical movement while your brain is working. That's one of the most important things. Or again, taking a language class or taking some other kind of computer class. The three things, again, we're keep coming back to the stamina, the brain power, the vitality, all the topics we talked about kind of roll into one. And we know that we flourish and our goals flourish when we're not doing it by ourselves. We need community and companionship in order to accomplish our goals most successfully. So it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor, it could be a coach, a specific event we're training for, but it's usually something. Because when we do it by ourselves in our basement, most of us aren't as successful. So one of my final questions to do is knowledge power? What do you think? It's a trick question. Well, I say no. I say it's the application of knowledge, because a lot of stuff we already know. We know this stuff. You already know we already know what we're supposed to do. I like to say successful people are those who make a habit of doing what unsuccessful people don't like to do. They know what to do, they just don't like to do it. A healthy lifestyle is progressive. Establishing the habit is much more important than the content. And once the habit is established, the content can grow and evolve over time. So see what happens. It's never too early. It's never too late. It's not as hard as we think. Start small, and we just can't afford not to. We don't have a magic wand, and I'm just like you. I mean, I get lazy. I get tired. I don't have great genes. I don't have access. I just have something that I follow. I have routines that I follow, and the clients that I work with, the same thing. Figure out what works for you. I have a QR code on your table for some free resources you can download, but I always finish up with Jeff. I like to have Jeff have the same last word, because again, I want to ask you about your future self. You know, what is in your best interest of your future self, and what can you do today to improve your future self? Okay, and I'm going to call these numbers here. I'll go back to this QR code.
Anyone has any questions or any questions in chat for our virtual attendees?
Oh my, I don't have my glasses, y'all. Someone read these. You gonna read these? I tried the one contact thing, it didn't really work for me. All right, who has questions? Any questions? No questions. Yes.
What do you think about supplements?
Supplements. You know, supplements, there are some supplements that are really important, especially as we age. For women, calcium. I know that omega-3s are really important to include. I personally also take extra vitamin D and vitamin B complex and a multivitamin. Some supplements that are like that are less proven, I'm not a fan of. Just when you meet with your doctor and you get blood workups and finding out as you're aging for your health profile, what are the most important things for me as I age? Because a lot of us aren't going to be able to get it just from our food. Yeah. What else? Yes.
What do you think about people who sleep at the wrong times of the day? Like I have a couple family members who are no longer working and they take naps all day and then they wonder why they can't sleep at night. So
yeah.
Is it right for everybody to sleep 100% at night?
You know, I was just reading an article that it used to be in ancient times that people had slept in 2 periods and they got up in the middle of the night to have like social time and then they went back to sleep for a while. But then it was determined that it was healthier to sleep for an extended period of time. Most of us find that our circadian rhythms are linked to the light and the darkness, and that we sleep better at night. And that when we are up during the day, we aren't going to sleep as well at night. Yeah. Yes.
What you said was about small meals frequently, which is quite the opposite of what
Intermittent fasting. Yeah. So my thoughts on that are that intermittent fasting, we used to call that skipping breakfast. Okay. So it's not exactly, I mean, it's not for everybody, and it's not terrible. It's some people, it works for them. It does not work for me, because I get up really early and I'm exercising first thing and I am hungry. But I'll tell you what, I'm also famished by like 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. And then I typically don't eat after that. So it's almost like I'm doing backwards intermittent fasting. Like I don't usually eat past 6 p.m. And then by the time I get up and eat my first meal and work out, it's like 8 a.m. So I have been fasting for, yeah. So it's up. So we should have a good chunk of time that we're not eating. But then during our eating window, we should be eating small, frequent meals is what. So like during the 8 or 10 or 12-hour period that we're eating, we don't want to eat just twice or once where it's like all this glut of calories at the same time. What happens is that our body can only process a handful of like 200, 300, 400 calories in one sitting. So as our body metabolizes it and uses it for fuel, if it has too many calories in that one sitting, it gets stored in our pockets, right here or right here, it gets stored. So we want to eat a little bit, burn it off, eat a little bit, burn it off. You don't want to sit down and eat one great big meal or two great big meals. So even if you're doing intermittent fasting, you still want to break it up during your eating window. Yeah.
Any commonality in food zones, gradient, and all that?
They're mostly about the content of the food, not so much about the timing of it. Yeah, is what I've read. Yes. Yeah.
One question on chat, are power naps productive for working folks? She finds that energizing.
They can be. Sometimes it depends on the length of time. I forget what it is. I'm not a sleep expert, but I believe it's somewhere around the 15 to 20 minute mark. They say that if it goes past then you end up feeling more tired. But if it's short, then you feel refreshed. Any nap experts out there? Professional napper at your service, right? Yeah. And I'm telling you, I can't read those. If someone's going to call those out, you're going to have to do it.
Round of applause for Ms. Richards. Okay, raffle numbers 693-6500. Raise your hand. 693-6494. Okay. They are pre-signed, but she will be personalizing them if you'd like. 693-6512. 9516. We had a couple people leave. If you see a ticket on your table. 6540. Yay. 6506. That's me. 6501. Okay, back in the back. 6520. Hey, we have a winner. And 6517. Okay. I think we have. Thank you very much.
This is reminding you it's never too early, never too late. And so what I also would like you to do, please find me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you guys, ask me any questions. If you, tell me what you're doing to be healthy. Or if you're on social media, find me on Facebook. Facebook, Instagram, any of those social media things. I would love to hear from you. And like I said, on LinkedIn, or check out that QR code to have some free downloads that you can enjoy, hopefully.
Okay, 6488. Okay. Your table's lucky. 6545. Okay. And one book. Did everybody who had a winning number have a book yet? Okay, one more.
My winning number was
6543. Hey, there we go. Okay. Ms. Richards also has some extra books to sell for the very affordable price of $20. So she'll take cash or virtual payment. So please hang around. Closing remarks from our chapter president, Mr. Gene Edwards.
So I realize it's getting a little late. We'll get you out of here in a few minutes. First off, thanks again for being members of the chapter. If you look around, this is a really great showing. We were kind of thinking when we had to take the price back from $10, to the normal price, that we would really not get a lot of folks. So thank you for showing up. We do appreciate that. We have chapter elections. I mentioned it last time. We had a little bit of a glitch, so we kind of went an extra month here. So watch those emails. You'll be getting an electronic ballot. And please vote. All right. Well, we'll definitely have very clear directions, Jeff. Very clear directions. A round of applause, although they tend to kind of scatter when we're towards the end of the night here, but a round of applause for our wait staff and the restaurant. There he is. You have to take all the applause. You're the only one in here. There you go. Hardest working man around. So it's been less than a year, but since we've changed the venue from Normandy Farm, I still have folks, chapter members coming up saying, hey, do you hear anything about Normandy Farms? No, I have not. All right. I have no idea when the new owners are going to open it, what they're going to have, etc. But, I think we really struck gold when we found this place. Location, great parking, great food. So I'm very happy, and hopefully from the feedback that I'm getting from the members, you all are as well. Other than that, I'll open up the floor if anybody has any quick questions. That's 3 Mississippis I've counted. So we're good to go. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Drive safe.